Hi, I'm Sheri Ann Richerson, and welcome to another episode of Experimental Homesteader TV. And this is part 2 of making butter. As you saw in part 1, I was blending the heavy cream. It is now blended. You're going to have some on the top of your lid, of course. This is what, well, if it'll come off here. This is what it's going to look like. You see how thick that is? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy gizmo here, this little thing. I have a canning funnel and a canning jar. I'm going to set this here. I'm going to lay a piece of cheesecloth over the top. I'm actually going to turn it like this. And I'm going to slowly pour the liquid, which is buttermilk, off of the butter. The point of the cheesecloth is so the little pieces of butter get caught instead of going on through. Oops! Okay, I made a bit of a mess there. This, of course, is your big chunk of butter. It's not all of the butter, but it's quite a bit of it. And you can use a butter paddle, but I just like to use a metal spoon, or sometimes I'll use just a bamboo spoon or a wooden spoon. And what you're trying to do is drain the majority of the buttermilk off the butter. Because if there's milk left in this butter, it's going to ruin it. Okay? So what I'm going to do at this point, and I do know I still have some butter left, but I need to get this blender emptied. I am going to put the big chunk of butter into a bowl, into just a plain glass bowl here. I'm going to set that aside. I am going to set my cheesecloth back up. As you can see, there is still some butter on it, but that's okay. I can just grab that piece of butter and toss it in the bowl as well. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to proceed to dump the rest of the buttermilk off. As you can see, there's still bits of butter coming out. And there's still butter in the bottom of that. You see that? Okay. Then I'm going to take this. I can squeeze it out like that if I like. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the amount that I'm making. And I'm just going to shake this off over here. Okay. Then I'm going to set the buttermilk aside because I will use the buttermilk later as I'm making more of the butter in place of milk. So that way I'm not running a lot of milk doing this. I'm just using milk the first time and buttermilk from thereafter. And then I'm going to go down in my blender and I'm going to kind of loosen this. Doesn't all have to come out because I'm going to wash this butter. And here is how you wash butter. Take cold water. And I'm only doing this in a pitcher for demonstration purposes. Normally I'd work at the sink. And you're going to fill the blender with some cold water. You can see the discoloration is the milk. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the butter. And like I said, I'm only doing a small amount for demonstration purposes. I'm going to put it in like that. I'm going to put my lid back on. And I'm going to turn this on. And then I'm going to take this pitcher, and again, this is only for demonstration purposes. Normally, I would be working at the sink. I'm going to squeeze my piece of cheesecloth out, and you see how much buttermilk came out of that. I'm going to spread it back out over this because I don't want to lose these little pieces of butter. And I'm going to pour the dirty water off the butter. Again, catching my butter in this. See, there it goes. Okay. Doesn't matter if it all comes out. That's okay if it doesn't. If you can get it out, that's fine. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up again with some clean water. And you do want to make sure this is cold. It really does make a difference. I can squeeze this out a little bit if I want. I actually could use the wooden spoon at this point. It does do a better job doing it that way. I want to make sure that none of the dirty butter gets into the clean area. Okay, and I'm going to put that back in. Again, I'm going to squeeze this out. I'm going to set this aside right there. I'm going to turn it back on. You can see the water is still cloudy, but not as quite as cloudy as it was. And you're going to do this until your water is fairly clear, because that means you've got most of the buttermilk out and it's going to be ready for you to process then. Oops. Okay. I did accidentally drop some butter this time, so I'm going to try to fish that out. There we go. Okay. And again, I'm just going to press it a little bit there. Try to get all the excess out. I'm going to guess one more time is all I'm going to need to fill it up with cold water. I'm going to kind of squeeze that out just a bit, not too much. Lost another piece of butter. I'll use this time, and just going to put that on there, kind of press and squeeze. It's not going to work too well. Okay. Good enough. Okay, and you can see the water is fairly clean at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this out again. I'm not going to worry about that little bit of butter. I can get it later if I want to. I'm going to lay this across, and I'm going to pour it. I could give this one more rinse, but I'm not going to. I think it's going to be fine. Okay. And I am aware there's still a huge chunk in there. That's okay. I'm going to kind of just press the excess water out of that. And then I'm going to work on getting this huge chunk out. I want to press just as much water out as I can at this point. Okay. Then I'm going to take this off of here. That cheesecloth wants to stick just a little bit. And I'm going to put that in here, just in this bowl. This is butter. Now all you have to do at this point, I like to use sea salt. And just put a small sprinkling. You probably can't see that, but just a light sprinkling of sea salt. I'm going to rinse my spoon off, because like I said, I like to use a spoon. I'm just going to mix that in, just like that. As you're mixing the salt in, can you see the water that's coming out of there? That's removing even more moisture. You want this to happen, okay? You want to get this butter just as dry as you can possibly get it. Okay, pour that water off. Okay, I have to hold this down here, be able to mix it. I think this needs just a little more salt. The salt does help remove the water. Okay. Again, there's more coming off of here. Okay. And at this point, the butter is done. If you're going to use it right away, you can add fresh herbs. And that's all there is to making butter.